When a shopper places an order, you have one shot at winning them as a lifelong customer. I'm Al Coe, CEO of ShipStation. I'm obsessed with ShipStation being the most reliable and efficient way you can ship. At ShipStation, our promise is to make shipping easier for e-commerce business owners. We're focused on providing the most integrations with all the places you sell and automating manual tasks to make fulfillment easier for your team. We partner with all the major carriers to make sure you get the lowest possible rates because every dollar counts. So no matter what you're sending or where you're shipping to, ShipStation can get it there fast and keep your customers happy. See for yourself how ShipStation can reduce the time and effort you spend on order fulfillment. Go to ShipStation.com to sign up for your free trial. That's ShipStation.com.
Welcome to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line alongside Marc Malusis. I'm the prop queen, Ariel Epstein. It is our second hour here on the show, so if you are listening for the second straight hour, thanks so much for dealing with us today. We've got until 1 p.m. Eastern time here on the VSiN network. So coming up this hour, Rick Kamla going to talk with us NBA playoffs. John Buccigross, NHL playoffs, you know him, legend. Thor Nystrom going to talk NFL draft. I cannot believe that the NFL draft is already on Thursday, Marc.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, and it's been a long time to get here when you think about it. End of the college football season, then you got the scouting combine in Indianapolis, you know, the individual pro days, the 30 visits, top 30 visits, all these teams trying to decipher what's real, what's not. It's quote unquote lying season in the National Football League. No one's really going to tell you their true intentions and what they really like. So you're trying to decipher what's real, what's not real, you know, but the NFL draft, and this is where the NFL is just king. They've done an amazing job of making it basically each month on the calendar, a must-see event. And this is not only great for NFL fans, great for sports fans, obviously great in what we do here on VSiN and opportunities to go out there and kind of take advantage of the marketplace. Even though, as we talked to Chuck Esposito from Stations and Red Rock in the first hour, Ariel, that, sports books, and you brought this up, have kind of improved, gotten a little bit smarter because it has not been profitable for them, or if they've gotten exposed at times or have had great liability when it comes to the NFL draft. But it's a tremendous event. First round is going to be fascinating on Thursday night, and it's going to be in a great spot in Green Bay. And I think it does present some distinct betting opportunities for our listeners and our viewers.
Hey, when you hear that the sports book is telling you we lose this every year. In fact, we have completely cut down our menu size on the NFL draft because we keep losing. That means you should be running to the window or your phone, wherever you end up betting. The NFL draft has a ton of value. Apparently, so does the Eastern Conference in the NBA playoffs. We were talking to the sportsbook director over at Red Rock, and he was saying the East really doesn't have anyone that they need as badly as they need the Lakers and Warriors to lose. So the Bucks and the Pacers, we get a 1 p.m. Eastern time game for the NBA playoffs, and the Pacers are laying 6. Now, Marc, for me, I just don't see anybody in Indiana having a shot at guarding against Giannis, which is why I'm looking at Giannis's prop overs, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Miles Turner, that's really going to be your solution to Giannis in Indiana? Absolutely not. I don't have a side for the game, even though I do know some sharp bettors like the Bucks to upset the Pacers. But if we've learned any lesson from that Memphis Grizzlies game last night, the book knows something when you're laying a decent number against a team like the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I like Indiana. I think it's a fair point. I think it's going to be an offensive series. Like, I don't look at Doc Rivers as being this great finishing coach in the NBA, but that's, that when he was brought in a year and a half ago into Milwaukee, that to me made little to no sense. But, even with the possibility of getting Dame Lillard back at some point in these playoffs, right? What version are you going to get? Then you look at Milwaukee. Are they necessarily the same team? No, Middleton's gone. Obviously, Bobby Porter's coming back. That's an improvement. He's a key point when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks. But you look at Indiana team where Halliburton, as of late, I would say the last 20, he's taken his game to another level. I think it's a more offensive-driven series. I like the over this afternoon. I like Indiana. Laying the 6. You mentioned some sharp minds that Ariel, that are in a favor and take Milwaukee plus the points. I like Indiana in the series. I think they're a better basketball team. And I think if this game or this series, I don't trust Milwaukee defensively. I don't think they're going to get enough stops. I think Giannis is going to get a ton of points. I agree with you. I don't think there's many people walking God's green earth that can handle Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So he's that talented of a player, but I still think, even if he gets as long as he's not scoring, 45, 48 a game, I still think this is Indiana's series. I do. And I like Indiana today in game 1.
I don't normally like to talk to listeners like this because a lot of people that listen to this network are very experienced bettors. Then there's the people listening because they're trying to learn something. For the people that are trying to learn something, there are ways to bet the series without having to lay 6. There are ways to bet the series without having to lay heavy juice on a favorite. My favorite way to do that, if you, let's say, like Indiana, you don't want to lay 6, there's those bets that you could find where you get a team to win game 1 and win the series. And typically, those end up being minus 110. Go take a look at those markets if you don't want to lay points, if you don't want to bet a heavy favorite on a series price. That's the way to go bet some of these teams. The Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers, they're at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Denver's laying 2.5. For people that don't know, this series opened with Denver favored to win it. It has now flipped to the Clippers favored to win the series. So again, minus 2.5 for the Nuggets tonight or today, 224.5 total. Anything you like in this series or this game tonight, Marc?
Yeah, we touched upon it a little bit in hour number 1. I like the Clippers in the series. I could understand where, the money is coming in on Los Angeles. And I'm not a huge James Harden fan. I like Kawhi. I've been frustrated by his injuries. You mentioned Powell as far as being a guy that could be an X factor in this series when you look at it. But I think there's a coaching advantage when you look at Los Angeles. I think the drama in Denver, I thought you brought up a great point. And when talking about the Nuggets, there comes a point in time, especially with all the drama late, the firing of the GM, the firing of the head coach and Malone, that sometimes teams, even with as talented of a player as Nikola Jokic being a part of the Denver Nuggets, that sometimes they've mentally moved on to the next season and kind of, dealing with everything and all the drama. I don't think the firing of Malone is all of a sudden going to be this great wake-up call. I could be wrong. I'm going to take the Clippers. I know they've been a team that a lot of people have backed in recent years, and for one reason or another, it has not clicked. I don't think they're getting through the Western Conference. I think obviously all roads go through Oklahoma City, but I do like them in this series, and I do like them this afternoon in game 1.
I like the Clippers as well. I just feel like I'm scamming people when I tell them to bet them to win the series. It's like when you see in movies, someone says they're bad at pool and then they end up owning you on the pool table. Like, that's with the Clippers. I feel like I'm deceiving people by telling them, hey, they were plus 100 a week ago. Now you could go lay minus 115, minus 120. Again, it's really not that bad to do that. I'm just saying I feel bad because you could have gotten something better. And that's why I'm going to tell people that in this series, especially today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, according to BetMGM, Nikola Jokic has 3 of the 5 most bet-on props at BetMGM. Nikola Jokic over 27.5 points is the most bet-on prop at the book. Nikola Jokic under 9.5 assists is the second most bet-on prop. Nikola Jokic under 12.5 rebounds is the 5th most bet-on prop. So if you want to fade the public, like I always advise, you would take under points, over assists, and over rebounds. But that's just up to you. I'm just telling you what the public is on. I know that, Moose, you're going to love talking about this one. You're a big Knicks fan. Knicks hosting the Pistons. Right now, the Knicks are laying 7 at the Garden with a total of 220.5. Where would you tell bettors to go and bet this game?
To me, I would only take New York tonight. Listen, Detroit won 3 of 4 against the Knicks during the regular season. And they won both times at Madison Square Garden. You look at Cade Cunningham in those 2 victories at MSG, I think he averaged over, 30 points a game. So the key for the Knicks is going to be, they're not all of a sudden going to become this great defensive team. Here's the interesting thing. All the pressure in the world is on New York. Whatever Detroit does in this series, they've had an unbelievable turnaround kind of a year, 30-game improvement from a year ago. The Knicks aren't as good as defensively as they were last year. They're more offensive-minded. You look at the 15 games when Jalen Brunson was out with that ankle injury, you saw the development offensively of OG Anunoby and obviously Mikal Bridges, right? Can Brunson become a little bit more of a facilitator in this series? I think the key is going to be OG Anunoby's defense on Cade Cunningham. If you're looking at this series overall, I think he's going to be able to match Cunningham's physicality. And we know OG has been a tremendous lockup defender, and he has evolved offensively as this series has gone along. I take the Knicks tonight. I think there's a decided home court advantage. I don't love the Knicks. I like the Pacers a little bit more today. I like Indiana a little bit more. Indiana, the Pacers today, and the Clippers today a little bit more. And I like the Knicks later on tonight, laying the 7. I think the Knicks win the series. I think they win it in 6 games. But I would only take the Knicks laying the 7. I would never take Detroit.
The city will be buzzing if the Knicks win a series, because I remember how it was when they won the series against the Hawks. It was like they won the World Series. Like, no, it was just one playoff series. And
the Knicks fans starving, Ariel. It's starving for relevancy.
You've been there. Half of you, if not 3/4 of you, are Yankees fans. You've won World Series. Like, enough already with this. Makes me mad.
No, that's fair, but it is a different sport, and the Knicks fan has been embarrassed over the years. You know this, Ariel. I mean, it's been punchlines in Disney movies. I mean, that's what the Knicks have been, right? They've been beat down, they've been downtrodden, all that stuff. So it's great that the Knicks are relevant, but yes, all the pressure in the world in this series is on the New York Knicks. Want to bet smarter, not louder? Check out Sharp Plays at sharpplays.com, where the real bettors go to get ahead. Most of the betting world, it's just noise, chasing steam, copying picks, recycling the same old value plays. They're not sharp, they're just parrots. The Sharp Plays is the source they're echoing. Since 2011, it's been locked in. What the real pros are betting: elite groups, sharp money, and the kind that actually move the market. When Sharp Plays jumps on the side, the line reacts every time with insider info and powerful AI tools. You're not guessing, you're getting ahead. Sign up for free betting reports, real-time alerts, and next-level intel via email or on X. And don't take anyone's word for it. Check the receipts. Full betting logs are live on the site, so why follow the crowd when you can lead it? Visit sharpplays.com. Respected, watched, and feared. That's Sharp Plays. That's the Sharp Plays. She's Ariel Epstein. I'm Marc Malusis. We're coming back talking NBA. Rick Kamla joins us right here on VSiN.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Welcome back to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line alongside Marc Malusis. I'm Ariel Epstein. Joining us now, he is all over sports ethos with WNBA, NBA, podcasts, writing, you name it. Rick Kamla joining the show. Thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday morning.
Hey, what's up? Good morning. Happy playoffs, y'all.
I am so excited. It is playoff time. The NBA playoffs begin at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So let's start there. Pacers, they're around minus 165 to win this series over the mighty Bucks. How much would you look at a dog here, or do you think the favorite's correct?
I'm all jammed up on this series with Damian Lillard. Thank God that he's been miraculously cleared from the blood clots. I mean, I literally can't believe he's going to play at some point in the series. They're ramping him up. So I just don't know. This is a too hot to touch for me. I don't like the number today. If I had to play it, I'm probably playing Indiana. But it's 6. I don't know. It's probably a live betting deal for me where, if I don't like the line, I just slide into the game, watch it. The first quarter is so telling. You can look at how they're defending the top players. Are they doubling? Are they trapping? Are they playing straight up? Are they who's got the hot hand, who's got the bad body language. Last night I was out kicking it in Florida, and I'm looking at that Memphis-Dallas game. It got up to like 24, mid-third, it got down to like 10, and I was like, all right, let's bang Memphis minus 10.5. Boom, they go on a big run. They didn't look back. So live betting is kind of where it's at for me right now. And not on every game, right? There's some games I have a vibe going in, but this will be a live betting special for me. I do like Brook Lopez, his point prop over. I think he's at 11.5. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. And if Kevin Porter Jr. somehow starts this game, which it's weird, Doc Rivers doesn't start him when I think he just should, but I think his number's 12.5. If we find out he's starting, I like the over on that as well.
Rick, how about the second game on the slate today, Clippers and Nuggets? Los Angeles is getting 2.5 in game one. Do you like anything game one, or do you like anything for the series between Denver and Los Angeles?
I think Denver's going to win the series, but there's going to be a lot of highs and lows and thrills and chills. This is going to be a 7-gamer. What I'm really curious to see how they treat Russell Westbrook, who was a Michael Malone guy. A lot of love there. I think his number's 9.5, right? This is the Russell Westbrook Bowl. Ariel, you with the props, I know you love the former team angle. All of us prop heads love the former team angle, right? Ross against the Clippers, he was with them last year and all this kind of stuff. But he usually does bring out the best in players. But will he get the opportunity to do that? So I don't know. I actually kind of doubt it. It feels like he was in the crosshairs of the whole firing of Michael Malone. So maybe Adelman just plays him 15 minutes. I'm very fascinated to find out what goes on with that. How much does Peyton Watson play? So as you can see here, I'm in evaluation mode, right? I look at these props, right? Harden at 22, Kawhi at his number, Jokic is at 28 or 29. It's all priced out, man. There's no value there. So I think it's pretty treacherous to go into this before. I like to look more on the fringe at the guys who are at the 9.5, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5, and then look for that pop. When you can gauge it correctly. What's really key with the playoffs, and I know that you all know this, is seeing game one and then reacting to it. The guys that have the huge games usually come down in game two. The guys that suck in game one usually rise up in game two. So that's a game that I like to play here. Let's say Denver smacks the Clippers by 13 today. Well, the Clippers are probably going to take a bite out of them in game two and vice versa. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this one.
That's also how I tend to look at these NBA playoff series. Rick Kamla joining us from Sports Ethos. He's got podcasts. He writes for them. So you better check him out. He's got great insights. And you were talking about Westbrook, and I've heard about how Adelman's not really playing him more, even though and it's kind of expected because he loses his head coach. But this series flipped from the Nuggets being favored to win it to the Clippers then being favored to win it. Why do you think it flipped? And do you flip? I mean, listen, you said you like Denver to win it. So why do you think this line then flipped against them?
Well, the Clippers always have been a hype train, even going back to Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan. They weren't really a hype train with Mark Jackson and Larry Brown back in the day. Ariel, I'm not even sure you were alive for all that. But DeAndre Jordan and Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, right? The hype train, Lob City, all this kind of stuff. And so there's always been this, everybody wants to give the Clippers something. It's just a weird deal. I'm not buying it. Here's the problem with the Clippers. They employ James Harden, who is the greatest playoff choke artist in any sport we have ever seen. Get him in a game 5, a game 6, a game 7. He will implode. It happens every single time. And people tell me, well, he's now the number 2 or 3 option with the LA Clippers. Man, I don't care. I've seen him in a 1-hole. I've seen him in a 2-hole. I've seen him in a 3-hole. And I see him choke. That's why I like Denver. I'm down on Denver, okay, because of the coach firing. I think you whack a coach with a week left in the regular season. You have set yourself up to not win as many playoff games as you would have before. It's just how it goes. But this is against the LA Clippers and the greatest choke artist we've ever seen. Harden will get in the Clippers' way of winning this series. It will probably not happen in games 1, 2, 3, or 4. He probably will tease us with a big game or two and get everybody psyched about this is going to be the year, blah, blah, blah. And then game 5, game 6, and or game 7, he is going to shoot 4 of 15, and I'm going to laugh at everybody on Twitter. So that's why I'm fading the Clippers.
Well, I'm the fool that's hopping on the Clippers bandwagon in this series, Rick. And you might be right. Tiger don't change his stripes.
On that hype train.
I am on the hype train. I'm on the Clipper hype train, baby. Yes, exactly right. You think I'd grew up in Los Angeles? All right, Rick, I want to ask you about the Knicks and Detroit. Game 1 tonight, Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are 7-point favorites. The total in the game is sitting at 220.5. Detroit took 3 of 4 from the Knicks during the course of the regular season. What do you see in game 1? What do you see in the series?
Again, this is a live betting one for me. The line is 7. I don't like it. If you backed me into a corner right now with a 300-pound behemoth breathing, you make a pick, I'll take the Knicks. And really the only reason there is experience. I think that what I feel good about is I think the Knicks are going to win this series. Okay. And I do kind of like cats over prop today. To me, it's reasonable. It's 22.5. It's 24.5, 25.5 is priced out. It's 22.5. Okay. That's an attack zone, I think. Brunson's at 27 or whatever it is. He's probably going to fire over that number. But they do have Oscar Thompson to put on him. I like the Knicks in the series. It's going to be a long series because of the experience. Detroit has never been in a playoff series with this group ever. And I know you've got, Harris with some playoff experience, Beasley with some playoff experience. It doesn't really matter because they haven't done it together. But the Cades and all these other guys, they haven't been there yet. The Knicks have. And the Knicks have championship in mind. The Pistons have beating the Knicks in mind. And I'm not saying the Knicks are looking past Detroit. I'm just saying there's a bigger thing going on here. So I do like the Knicks in the series, but this is a live betting thing for me going in. And what I'm going to be watching for is, just the look of the Knicks, right? And then the look in the eye of Detroit. They're going to be at Madison Square Garden, right? First playoff foray with this group. And so are they spooked? Do they have that deer in headlights look a little bit? And that's the kind of stuff I gauge. So I want as many cutaways to the face as the networks can give us, because that's where us better. I don't want the high shot, from the top of the lower bowl. Like, give me face shots. I want to see Cade Cunningham look him in the eye. I want to see Jalen Duren in the eye. You know what I mean? But I do like the Knicks overall in the series.
Rick Kamla, thank you so much for joining us. You just made me laugh like a bunch of times in the span of 10 minutes. We appreciate you. Check them out at Sports Ethos and have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games.
Y'all too. Take it easy.
Thanks, Rick.
The NFL Draft starts next Thursday, and VSiN knows every pick matters. Tune in for 2 special live shows breaking down every pick from a betting perspective. VSiN Primetime Draft Edition is starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by Cashing Out Draft Edition at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Plus, explore our NFL Draft Hub on the VSiN Watch app, featuring exclusive analysis, team needs, and insights. Visit VSiN.com/draft for full coverage and stream it all live on the VSiN Watch app. Remember, the draft starts on Thursday. What starts today? The NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And coming up next, we've got an NHL legend. John Buccigross going to join the show. We'll break down every game for tonight and for the series opening up the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's Marc Malusis and Ariel Epstein. We're taking you here on VSiN right until 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
It's the VSiN Weekend Morning Line alongside Marc Malusis. I'm Ariel Epstein. There's one thing that we know about the NHL playoffs because it is very unpredictable, but there is one thing we know. It is the best playoffs in all professional sports. So we've got one of the best to break it all down with us. John Buccigross joining the show, Bucciot.com. Catch him at Buccigross on X and Instagram. Thank you so much, during this very busy time of year for joining us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
When you look at the overall board
John,
of the opening round of the NHL playoffs, how do you look at all of this uncertainty? Like, there has got to be a team that you say, okay, this one team everyone's sleeping on right now. Who is it?
It's, hockey is just different from all the other sports because of the goalie position. It can steal a series. It's the playoffs are more about, momentum and confidence and energy, because it's such a blood sport, hockey. It's really an emotional sport, the most emotional of them all. And when you're playing a series and you're playing the same opponent time after time, it's just a whole different animal than the regular season. So that's why it's kind of hard to forecast, kind of hard to see the future, because it's just completely different than the regular season, so many components. So to try to pick one team, I think each conference probably has a top four that can make the Stanley Cup. Occasionally one of those other teams get in, but it's rare. It's still usually one of the better teams. And, probably the one team you look at is St. Louis. They've been the best team since the Four Nations break. And will that carry over against a team like Winnipeg? That's always a question. Will that hot roll continue and that they're on? And because they've not done nothing really but win. So I guess the Blues would be one of those teams you kind of look at as, but otherwise in the East, to me, it's Tampa, Florida, Toronto, Washington, and the West is really, probably now with Dallas's injuries, it could be down to Colorado, Vegas, and that's really just about it. Maybe the Kings have a run in them, but I think it's kind of a small field in that way, but not really one squad to look at. But if from the teams outside that, like I said, and I'd put Toronto in that mix as well in the East. Maybe St. Louis is the one out of that list that you say, geez, maybe they have a goalie who's won it before and he won Four Nations, and they have been the best team in the league since Four Nations. So maybe the Blues are the team to ride. And there's probably good odds on them too.
John, I want to ask you, because it's a tremendous narrative and also storyline. You're going to be doing the series, and that's Toronto and Ottawa. But the pressure that it's on the Leafs after the regular season that they had, you mentioned one of the top four teams in the Eastern Conference. They can get themselves to a Stanley Cup final. But what about this rendition of Toronto going into the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Yeah, they won their first division, since the Atlantic Division began. It's their ninth straight playoff appearance. That's the longest active streak in the league. They've done all these things, but 100-point team in the last 6 seasons. So they in the East, they've been the best team since the Four Nations break. We mentioned St. Louis, the best team overall, but Toronto's been the best team in the East since the Four Nations break. But once we get to the postseason, obviously they haven't won a cup or even been to the cup since 1967. Both are the longest stretches in the history of the league. No one's ever gone that long, either winning the cup or reaching the finals at least. They've lost their last 3 game ones, 9 of 11, so they tend to get off to a slow start. And if you lose game one, you still have a chance. You still have a 30% chance. It does drop a lot. That's still a 300 hitter. So 300 hitters get base hits. It seems like a lot, so they still should win. But it's weird, and it's always fun to kind of dissect teams like that. The long droughts that they've had, whether the Cubs or the Red Sox were even longer in baseball. But for them, it's been so long. They've struggled, but despite there's just such a difference between their postseason and regular season performance, and that's got to be something there. So that's a fun one to watch. These two teams, both from Ontario, haven't met in 21 years, and so it's very passionate. It's a rival series. So in a rival series, the underdog always have a little more chance than a normal underdog would. Ohio State, Michigan, like this year. It's just going to be a little closer because Toronto is certainly the favorite in the better team. But they're just 10 points better, and Ottawa's a good squad, so it wouldn't be a massive upset, but it would be an upset. But with the rivalry, it makes it even tighter.
John Buccigross joining us, Bucciot.com. Catch him at Buccigross on X and Instagram, and of course, all over ESPN platforms. This Avalanche and Stars series is interesting. The Stars, ever since COVID times, it just feels like on paper they should get further, and they just need to get over the hump. How much do you believe in them this year?
Well, the injury to Heiskanen looks like he might not play, hopefully, until Game 4 for them. That might be a good optimistic view, he's their best defenseman. He really helps drive them. Otherwise, they don't have a lot of dynamic defensemen who can help with offense. And then Jason Robertson, who led them in goals, 35. He hasn't been a good player performer, but, again, 35 goals, hurt on the last day of the regular season, doesn't look good. So to lose those two guys, that's a big one. But again, they have a goalie in Jake Ottinger. They have a system. They have a good coach. They have, Mikko Rantanen and Rope Hintz and Wyatt Johnson and Matt Duchene. So there's still a lot of stuff there. People were talking about them winning the cup with a full squad, but Heiskanen and Robertson are two big subtractions. And to go up against a team like Colorado, who did a great job at the deadline, they're much more fortified up the middle with McKinnon, Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle. The goaltender, Mackenzie Blackwood, is an uncertainty. It's hard to win the playoffs. Again, these series are every other day, and they start to learn about their opponents. They learn their weaknesses, and people can be exposed. So we don't know about him. Can he be good for 2 months for the Colorado Avalanche? But with Makar and McKinnon and what they've done, to me, I've been kind of on them since the trade deadline that they're the team to win the Stanley Cup, and that's the team that I'm kind of riding.
John, of the two series that got going today, Blues, Jets, Avalanche, Stars, I get a sense just from the 4 or 5 minutes that you've spent with Ariel and I this morning, is that you're leading Avalanche in game one for the series, and Blues and Jets. Who do you like in that series? Who do you like in game one? Who do you like in the series?
Yeah, I still like Winnipeg. Obviously they're a President's Trophy winning team. The first Canada team to do that in a while since Vancouver, like 13 years ago. Canada hasn't won a cup since '93. They got 5 teams in, and Winnipeg, they have obviously Connor Hellebuyck is the Vezina winner. He's also going to get some MVP votes for how he's played this year. And, they're deep. They're not infallible. Again, last year that Colorado really took advantage of them and took care of them. But again, I like Winnipeg in that series. I just think they're deep, and I like them at home in game one. That Winnipeg's a great atmosphere. The fans really get on you, and it might be a little bit of a surprise for the Blues at first. The Blues are without Dylan Holloway, who has been absolutely magic for them since they offer-sheeted him from Edmonton. Slow start, but then he really picked it up. They're like 16-2-2 with him in the lineup down the stretch, and he's not going to play in the series. That's a big loss. Takes away some of their scoring depth. He was a physical guy too, but they're a good. They have a good defense core. Cam Fowler was a great trade with Anaheim. Again, Jordan Binnington has shown that he's maybe not a statistical wonder, but a big time. Got a Stanley Cup and now a 4 Nations. He's played good hockey. He likes those kind of big moments. So they certainly have a chance. But their coach Jim Montgomery's been a really good coach in the league. Coached 2 good Bruins teams, and early on Dallas has yet to win a playoff series, which is kind of surprising. But so eventually he'll win one. But again, Hellebuyck and the better team in front of him than it was last year. They suppress even more scoring chances. The Blues don't have a scary offense, just kind of depth, but Winnipeg has depth, so they can match their depth. And with Hellebuyck in net and the slight home ice advantage, I do like the road team, Colorado to win and the home team, Winnipeg, to win tonight.
About 1 minute left.
John,
I always tell bettors that the Conn Smythe is a great way to get some extra value in the futures market. And now that you get there's some lost value on some of these teams. So if you think a team is going to win the Stanley Cup, then you might as well just go bet the Conn Smythe. Who would you tell people is a good candidate for it?
Yeah, I think Cale Makar is. If my Avalanche go on to win, I think it'll likely be because of him. His offense, his defense, his ice time, that helps a defenseman when it's kind of close in scoring. And for him, it'll be Nathan McKinnon will be his likely competition for the Conn Smythe. Unless a winger like, Nichushkin goes crazy and scores 14 goals. He's also on the PK. He's a power play threat. He's just an all-around menace in the playoffs. So someone like him could be that guy that, man, if he ends up scoring goals and they go on to win the cup, he could have like I said, 14, 15 goals in 24 games. They usually play about 24 games to win the cup. If McKinnon is more like 8, 9 goals with a lot of assists, that's going to bend towards the Nichushkin. But again, if Makar is able to continue his scoring that he had in the regular season, and he is a guy who has 8, 9 goals, and he's got a lot of points and power play points, he's playing 29 minutes a night, 30 minutes a night, Again, he won the Conn Smythe last time they won the Cup in 2022, and sometimes that helps too. Guys tend to win. When they win one, they tend to win another one too if their team is back. Sidney Crosby got the benefit of the doubt for the Penguins last time a couple times. I thought maybe Phil Kessel deserved the second one. So yeah, I'd probably ride Makar if I'm believing in Colorado.
John Buccigross, thank you so much for joining us. Safe travels, and catch them all over ESPN throughout these Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate you.
Be right back here on VSiN.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Back on VSiN Weekend Morning Line alongside Marc Malusis. I'm Ariel Epstein, taking you to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We've talked Major League Baseball. We've talked NBA playoffs. We've talked Stanley Cup playoffs. The NFL Draft is on Thursday already, and we had to bring on someone super strong and talented and great at breaking down the NFL Draft, and you know he is because his name is Thor Nystrom, NFL Draft Analyst for Fantasy Life. Catch him at Thor KU on X. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
We are so excited for this Thursday. And I have to tell you, the main thing that I always look at is the quarterbacks drafted in the first round. This year, it is at 2.5. How much do you believe we're going to see 3 go in this not so heavy quarterback draft?
Yeah, I mean, like a month ago, even I would have gone under. I would have felt pretty strongly about under. Now I'm starting to feel pretty strongly about the over. You know, when we got the invitation for Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart was pretty surprising to the NFL draft. Right? They've been trying to cut down the amount of invites going out, and both those guys got one. The NFL doesn't make mistakes with that kind of a stuff, so they clearly feel that there is a solid chance that both of those guys go in the first round. They're going to go higher than people think. So I would go over the 2.5.
Thor, when you look at the marketplace, what have you bet so far, and what are you looking to invest in this week?
Yeah, I bet a million of them, to be honest. You know, I hit that throughout the spring, and just try to play arbitrage when the juice goes the other way. So it depends on the day you're asking me. But yeah, we have a diverse portfolio right now.
The books have Cam Ward as a lock for number 1. How much do you believe he's that ready for the NFL?
Yeah, definitely going to go 1. And he's ready to play in that you can start him next year. I don't know if it's going to be quite as smooth immediately as people are assuming. You know, Cam Ward, his turnover-worthy play rate last year was 3 times that of Shadir Sanders. He has that kinetic sort of playmaking ability, and it's the same impetus that leads to all the explosive plays. But he turns the ball over, and you're going to see some of that next year, assuming that he is starting from day one as a rookie. So there's gonna, you're gonna have to put up with some of that stuff, because again, it's the playmaker instinct in him. But yeah, there are times he tries to attempt throws that are impossible to complete, and some of that stuff, you're gonna have to live with initially.
Thor, what's your take on running backs? Ariel asked you about quarterbacks. The same number set 2.5 over under first round. Over sitting at plus 165, under minus 210. We know Genty out of Boise State's going early. What's your take on terms of running backs in the opening round?
Yeah, you definitely can't go under at that price because I know that there's going to be 2 minimum, right? And there is that shot for the third. I think the price with the accelerated juice there, you can't go under. You could think about a nibble on the over, but the price is close to fair for me. I feel like that's one of the ones that the market has correctly, right? And I think a part of the thing that's going to inform it, it's not how soon RB1 Genty goes. It's how soon RB2 Hampton goes, right? Like there's that scenario where we assume Genty's going to go in the top 10, right? And probably the top 6. In the scenario where a team like the Cowboys at 12 takes Hampton, I think that's where you get the RB3 at the end of the round, right? Because then there's going to be the idea of pulling the guys up. There's some teams back there that desperately want the running back. The Broncos at 20 are a team that appears to have been earmarking this pick for a running back. They would prefer Hampton. If he's not there, would they defer off to Henderson, someone like that? And then you have teams like the Steelers as well circling around there, Chargers. So yeah, but with the Jews, that's one I don't think I bet.
Thor Nystrom joining us here on the VSiN guest line, NFL Draft Analyst for Fantasy Life. Thor, you said earlier you have a conspiracy theory. No, I'm just kidding. Just a theory about the Cleveland Browns. And I'm a big AFC North person. I'm a diehard Ravens fan. So who do you think the Browns are taking?
Yeah, I mean, so this goes back to the quarterback situation with the Browns. We know the Browns are going to take Travis Hunter at 2. I've been hearing stuff about their intentions for the quarterback, their plans heading into this draft since the combine. And the consistent thing was, if Shadir Sanders starts to fall, watch out for the Browns. If he gets into the teens, watch out for the Browns who would potentially try to make a swing up the board to acquire him. But say that's not there for them, right? Say that Shadir Sanders goes in the top 10, or say he even slides down, but you're not able to get that trade. You obviously have to have a willing trade partner, and you get hopped in line for that. I think the backup option for them, I don't have information on this. This is just dot connecting, but I think the backup option for them is Jalen Milroe. I mentioned the shocking NFL draft invite to Jalen Milroe. In my opinion, one of the most shocking invites that we have seen over the last decade, to the point where myself, people in my industry, we couldn't get the finite information of why did this happen. It was unexplainable, but the NFL doesn't make mistakes. So who is the mystery team on Milroe? You start to go through all the teams, and most of them don't make sense. The team that makes all the sense in the world, and I can't believe people haven't made this connection yet, haven't put this, is the Browns. The Browns offensive coordinator is Tommy Rees, who in 2023 was the offensive coordinator at Alabama. That was the year that Jalen Milroe looked like a future number 1 overall pick, right? And then last year, Kalen DeBoer goes there. He tried to put the square peg into a round hole. He wanted Jalen Milroe to stay in the pocket. He wasn't allowed to scramble on the passing concepts. It was a bad fit. That's why his game devolved down the stretch, right? Tommy Rees, that's the guy who knows how to use Jalen Milroe. You have to allow him to run as well when it's not there. DeBoer, the way he did it was design quarterback runs. But again, on passes, it was you get the ball out. Tommy Rees knows how to use Jalen Milroe. And funny enough, Andrew Berry, the Browns general manager, earlier this week, he had the press conference. The thing people were aggregating were the comments he was making about Travis Hunter. He also had a section in there where he was talking about Jalen Milroe. And he mentioned that he might be as fast or faster than Lamar Jackson, might enter the NFL as the fastest quarterback in the NFL. He made a joke. Don't tell Lamar that. They asked him about having Tommy Rees there. Would that be valuable for a Jalen Milroe evaluation? Andrew Berry's like, oh, absolutely invaluable. They asked him about the offensive scheme, with Milroe and stuff. And Barry's comments with that, it was overtly telling people we have already considered the way we would modulate this offense for Jalen Milroe. We have the guy that played up his game, right? We have Tommy Rees. I think that is your mystery team on Jalen Milroe. And if the Browns do not get access to Shadir Sanders, I think they're going to be taking Jalen Milroe.
Thor, we have about 90 seconds here. I want to ask you, in terms of when you're looking at this marketplace, is it fair to assume the draft starts at 4? We're going Ward 1 to Tennessee, Hunter 2 to Cleveland. Fair assumption that the Giants are going to take Abdul Carter 3, the edge rusher out of Penn State. That it all starts with the Patriots at 4.
That's how I feel, yeah, unless the Giants want to get crazy, right? And that administration, I don't really trust their decision-making, so they could, but we assume that they're going to take Carter. And so, yeah, for me, that's where the draft does start, is at 4. And to the Patriots, do they hit it down the fairway with public expectation with Will Campbell? To me, that would be a mistake, taking a guy with that short of arms that I don't think can play tackle in the NFL at 4. I think that's a bit of a reach, but that's what the supposition has been, but that's the first one, on the train stop where we don't know 100%. So I would say the draft starts there. And I think the draft really starts at 5, by the way. That's the slot where I think there's a ton of intrigue, because Jacksonville is a primary team to potentially look to trade down. And there are teams that are looking to get up there be it for Ashton Genty, be it for Tyler Warren. You got to get ahead of the Raiders if you want Genty. The Jaguars phone line's open.
Hey, Thor, we appreciate the time this morning. Real quickly, Thor, your biggest long shot play in the opening round is what?
I got a couple that were at, I like to do it, the team, their first pick, but one, just off of what I was just saying, I did Tyler Warren at 20-1 to go fifth because Jacksonville's in play to take him. And I can tell you that's, again, one of the slots teams talking to them about moving up. Tyler Warren would be one of those guys. Genty would be another one. But I think 20-1 it's a little bit, we're getting decent odds there.
Yeah. Hey, Thor, we appreciate it. Enjoy the draft on Thursday night when it gets going, all right?
Thanks so much, guys.
Best Bets are brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. G-Bank is upping the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening receive a $250 bonus. In addition, you spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within 30 days of account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus. That's potentially a $750 bonus. Apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank, subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. An hour to play with. She's Ariel Epstein. I'm Marc Malusis. It's VSiN on a Saturday morning. Stay tuned.